It's time for spelling analysis and to apply what we've been learning. The first word is oil. The recipe calls for 1 cup of vegetable oil. Go ahead and say oil. Let's sound it out. Oi, ul. This is oi that you may not use at the end of English words. Go ahead and write oi, ul, oil. Sounding it out as you write it. Excellent. Now help me to write it. Oi, ul. And how do we mark it? We'll underline the oi and let's sound it out together. Oi, ul, oil. And I wrote my ul a little far away, so I'm going to rewrite that for us. Oil. Oi, ul, oil. The next word is boy. The boy is playing outside. Boy. Go ahead and say boy. Let's sound it out. B-oy. You're right. It's 2-letter oi that you may use at the end of English words. Go ahead and write boy. Excellent. Now help me to write it. B-oy. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the oi. Let's read it. B-oy, boy. The next word is 7. I have 7 cookies left. 7. Go ahead and say 7. How many syllables in 7? 2. We will say to spell sev-en. What will we say to spell? Sev-en. Let's sound it out. Sev. S-e-v. The second syllable is n. E-n. Go ahead and write sev-en. Excellent. Good sounding it out. Help me to write it. The first syllable is sev. S-e-v. The second syllable is n. E-n. Let's read it. S-e-v-e-n. 7. The next word is frozen. The vegetables are frozen. Go ahead and say frozen. How many syllables? 2. We will say to spell frozen. What will we say to spell? Frozen. Let's sound it out. The first syllable is fro. F-er-o. The second syllable is zen. Z. This is the phonogram z that only says z. E-n. Go ahead and write frozen. Excellent. Good sounding it out. Help me to write it. The first syllable is fro. F-er-o. The second syllable is zen. Z-e-n. And why did the O say its long sound? We'll put a line over it because it did. And why? A, E, O, U usually say their long sounds at the end of the syllable. And here it is at the end of the syllable saying its long sound. Let's read it. F-er-o-z-e-n. Frozen. The next word is stick. I threw the stick and the dog fetched it. Stick. Go ahead and say stick. Let's sound it out. S-t-i-k. Did you see that? It's a 2-letter k. Go ahead and write stick. Excellent. Now help me write it. S-t-i-k. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the k. Why did we use 2-letter k in this word? It's after a single short vowel. Let's sound it out. Stick, stick. The next word is list. I made a long grocery list. List. Go ahead and say list. Let's sound it out. L-I-S-t. All right. Very good. Go ahead and write it. Good. Now help me to write it. L-I-S-t. And let's read it. List. List. The next word is trunk. I put the groceries in the trunk of the car. Trunk. Go ahead and say trunk. Let's sound it out. T-r-n-k. This is a tall k. Go ahead and write trunk. This is a n, k, tall k. Good. Now help me to write it. K. Now, let's read it. K. Trunk. So let's look at this a little bit. First of all, why did we not use a two-letter K? Oh, because it's after a consonant sound, and two-letter K is used only after a single short vowel sound. Also, say the sound N. N. Do you feel how your tongue is kind of forward and on the top of your mouth? N. Now say the sound K. K. Do you feel how your tongue is further back? K. When we say trunk, do you notice how this N gets moved a bit further back? That's because it has a K coming, so your tongue is adapting to that. Trunk. Excellent. So phonograms and sounds are just like colors. There's shades of them. So you hear a shade of that N sound here. The next word is box. The shoes are in the box. Go ahead and say box. Let's sound it out. B-A-X. Go ahead and write it. Box. Good. Now help me write it. B-A-X. And let's read it. B-A-X. Box. The next word is toy. Which toy is her favorite? Toy. Go ahead and say toy. Let's sound it out. Oi. You've got it. You already know which oi that you may use at the end of English words. Good. Help me to write it. Oi. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the oi. Let's read it. Oi, toy. The next word is dish. Can you pass the dish? Dish. Go ahead and say dish. Let's sound it out. D-I-sh. Go ahead and write it. Dish. And help me write it. D-I-sh. And help me to mark it. We'll underline the sh. Let's read it. D-I-sh. Dish. And here's the sh used at the beginning of the word and at the end of the syllable. The next word is coin. I will need to get a coin to put into the machine to get my candy. Coin. Go ahead and say coin. Let's sound it out. K. Use a k. Oi that you may not use at the end of English words. N. Go ahead and write coin. Good, sounding it out. And help me write it. K. Oi. N. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the oi and let's read it. K. Oi. N. Coin. Good. The next word is clover. There's clover growing out in the middle of the grass in the yard. Clover. Go ahead and say clover. How many syllables in clover? 2. We will say to spell clover. What will we say to spell? Clover. The first syllable is clo. K. Use a k. O. The second syllable is ver. V-er. Go ahead and write clover. Sound it out as you write it. Excellent. And help me to write it. K-O. The second syllable is ver. V-er. And how will we mark it? We'll put a line over the O. Why? A, E, O, U usually say their long sounds at the end of the syllable. And here it is saying its long sound at the end of the syllable. We'll underline the er. Let's read it. K-O-V-er. Clover. The next word is the. The question is, what should we do? The. Go ahead and say the. Now, the is a very common word. It's, I think, the most frequently used word in English, and it's not a super important word in the meaning of the sentence. It's a grammatical term. So when we are spelling this word, we are going to say to spell the. What will we say to spell? The. And because it's this grammatical term, it is a schwa or a lazy vowel, so we'll say to spell the and exaggerate the vowel. Let's sound it out. E. All right, go ahead and write the, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. Good, help me to write it. E. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the and what sound of do you hear? That's right, the second. And we'll put a line over the E. And why did the E say its long sound? A, E, O, U usually say their long sounds at the end of the syllable. Now, you might be asking me, but we say the. We say a lazy sound. And most of the time, that's true. But what happens if you are reading a book and you get to the end and you want to emphasize it? You will say, it is the end. And why do you say the in that situation? Because you are naturally exaggerating the vowel sound, E, when you are emphasizing, that is the one I want. That is the end. So schwa vowels are lazy, and that's usually what you hear. But even when you're exaggerating it in normal speech, you exaggerate it to the. Excellent. The next word is He is a great basketball player. Go ahead and say All right, here's another great example of that schwa, You can even feel it. You hardly need to move. We will say to spell A. Go ahead and say A. A. All right, go ahead and write it. Good, help me to write it. A. And how will we mark it? We'll put a line over it. And why did it say its long sounds? A, E, O, U usually say their long sounds at the end of the syllable. But normally we read it as the schwa sound. Again, this is a very common word and we don't stress it in the sentence, so we say But even when we're exaggerating for speech, that is a great idea. You'll hear people say that when they're trying to emphasize. That is a great idea. They'll say it as if it's stressed, and then they'll pronounce it just like that, saying the schwa vowel clearly as A. The last word is an. I would like an apple. An. Go ahead and say an. And let's sound it out. A-n. And go ahead and write it. Good, and help me to write it. A-n. And let's read it. A-n, an. Here's another thing. The words and an are related meaning. I have a car, I have an apple. So when we use this before a vowel sound, we use the sound an, or we use the word an. And again, they're spelled similarly because they're related in meaning. All right, I hope this has explained some new words for you for reading and spelling.
Combining the science of reading with the joy of learning. Learn more at essentials.logicoфenglish.com.